Welcome, welcome, beautiful, to day 2 of the Emergency Medical Folder Challenge. I am so glad that you're here. I'm Susanna Kay, and I am going to be your host for the week for the challenge. So today we are talking about what information to include and what to make sure not to include in your quick grab emergency medical folder that we're building this week, right? Now, if you've not already registered, make sure that you register for the challenge. It's free because you can get your free template download. It's like 11 pages of fillable PDF. So that'll make putting this together so ridiculously easy. So make sure that you register. Either go to my website at susannakay.com or you can go to the challenge schedule page. And there's a registration link right there. And I believe there's also one in the video description. So make sure to register, get your downloadable templates to make this week even easier. All right. Well, as you hop on, let me know who you are and where you're joining me from. Today, during day 2, this live, we will cover, like I mentioned, what to include in your emergency medical folder and what not to include. Also, how to use those free worksheets to make this even easier. All right. Now, if you know anybody who you think would benefit from this challenge or from just building their own emergency medical folder, make sure to share this challenge, this video, any of the things that we share this week, share this with people. All right? Because the more people who are prepared, the better it is for everybody, right? Okay, really quickly, I wanted to say hi to those who are hopping on. Hi, Patricia. Great to see you. Hey, CJ. She says, ready to learn, ready to work. I like your attitude. I love it. Good morning, Mary from New York. We've got Vicky's here. Hi, Vicky. So glad that you're joining us today. Alice is here. She says it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Love it. Susan says, hi, everyone. Alice is here from Tennessee. And Mary from Pennsylvania. Susan from Wisconsin. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have all of you here with us and more hopping on by the minute. Hi, Lori. Good to see you again. All right. So why do you need an emergency medical folder? Really quickly, just to recap, this is something that you can bring with you to doctor's appointments. If there's an emergency, you can grab it and go to the emergency room or take it on the ambulance with you. If first responders have to come to your home, if you or your loved one's not able to communicate, this is going to tell them everything that they need to do to give you the best care possible. Plus, it also has some of your basic emergency information in case you need to evacuate or anything like that. So this is one of those essential pieces. It is great if you have this information on maybe your phone or a USB drive as well. But in an emergency, having a printed copy is what is going to help first responders and doctors and all those medical people, because they probably don't have somewhere to plug in your USB drive or know where to find it on your phone quite as easily. So this is really, really helpful to have. Throughout the week, we'll talk about how to keep it safe, where to store it, all of those good things. But today we are talking about what to include in your emergency medical folder. All right. So before we start, tell me in the comments, do you already have your emergency medical folder and have you used it at all? I know I've so far, thankfully, only had to really use mine for one emergency room visit, but the rest have just been to take to doctor's appointments. And the doctors and nurses love this because all the information is right there for them. It makes their job so much easier. But have you used yours and how did it help? Did it help out? Did it not help out? Tell me in the comments what your experience has been. Now, this emergency medical folder is one small part of the full Spark Life Binder, which is the way to organize all of your important information for your entire life, for you and your loved ones, right? So I know if you've already got your Spark Life Binder, then you already have your emergency medical folder. And it's just filling it in. Super, super simple, right? Now, I'll tell you more about the Spark Life Binder later this week, but just remember that this emergency medical folder and the worksheets that come with it, those are all very similar to the worksheets that come with the Spark Life Binder, and they function in the same way to make it easy for you. All right, really quickly, I wanted to say hi. We've got Donna has hopped on, and Sharon, welcome, welcome. We got Brenda is ready to go. I love it. BT is here, Beverly. She said, good morning. And Lori, thankfully, she says that she has not had to use her emergency medical folder yet. Thank goodness. I'm glad to hear that. but you're ready if you do. Connie is here from Kansas. Oh, Donna says that she's having trouble opening emails from me. Do me a favor. Will you shoot me an email at hello@susannak.com to let me know that and let me know what exactly is going on? And either Stephanie or I can absolutely help you out. So shoot me an email at hello@susannak.com and let me know that and exactly what's going on, and we will help you. Okay, Donna? Because I want to make sure that you can get everything that you need. Sharon says that she never finished it, but boy, did she need it last year. Oh, well, hopefully you can finish it this week, and I'll show you the super easy way to do that. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about filling it in super quickly. Oh, Donna says, yes, fantastic. Fantastic. Joanne says, I had one for my husband when he was going through leukemia treatments. It was very helpful. I have one for me, but I've not had to use it for an emergency. Well, I'm glad you've not had to use it, and hopefully it made your husband's process a little bit easier. What a tough one. Sending big hugs, Joanne. Glad it helped out. All right, so let's talk today about what types of things do you want to include in an emergency medical folder, right? What types of information are we going to make sure are included in our folders? Well, the nice thing is I already made this super simple for you. If you registered and grabbed your download of the template for the worksheets, then you already have a lot of this already set up for you, right? So some of the things to include is general emergency information. So that would be things like your local emergency numbers and most importantly, non-emergency numbers. So that would be things such as, I'm going to use this as an example instead. Things such as your non-emergency sheriff and police numbers, fire department, the ambulance and EMS non-emergency numbers, as well as, of course, you would write at the top really big if you dial 911 or whatever the emergency number is for your area. You'd also want to make sure to have emergency home details. So that can be things such as your alarm codes and details about the alarm, landlord information, the location of circuit breakers, water shutoff valves, and things like that that you might need in case of an emergency. Another part of the home section that I would include would be pet information. So include things like your pet's microchip IDs and vaccination records, especially the vaccination records, because if you do need to evacuate quickly, then a lot of times if you're going to a shelter or if you have to board your pets, if you have to board them somewhere besides their normal place, then you will need to prove that they have their vaccinations up to date. So having those records in your quick grab and go is going to be super, super helpful. Also, how many pets are in your home and what are some places that they might hide if they're scared? This will help first responders if you have to go to the hospital and they need to contact what you should also include the caregiver for your pets, an alternate caregiver, or anybody who's going to go into your home and help out in that way. It could possibly even help firefighters, although a lot of times those window stickers are best for firefighters just because that's the fastest way for them to see it. But if the fire response team has time to look in there, then they might also be of use to them. But primarily for anybody who, if you're not able to care for your pets, whoever's going to care for your pets, so people know who is the caregiver and how many pets there are and where they might hide because they are probably going to be scared, right? Now, that's just the beginning part of your emergency medical folder. The next part is the meat of the folder, right? That is the medical information. And you're going to want to do one copy of the medical pages for each person in your household. So when you download the template, then there are a couple pages of the regular emergency information. And then you can just print duplicate copies of all of the medical pages, one set per person in your house, and then just stick dividers in, one divider per person. So you'll see in mine, we have all of mine are back here, and then all of my husband, Moose Pie, has his section. So each person has their own section. Now within that section, you'll find on the worksheets, I already did the brain work for you. You just have to fill in the blanks, right? Because we're making this super easy and we're taking our brain out of the system, right? So you will include things like life-threatening allergies. That goes up front for the person. What are their life-threatening allergies or conditions or special needs, right? You can include their date of birth. I used to say not to include the date of birth. We'll talk about keeping this safe later this week, but I used to say not to include it because you leave this out where first responders and caregivers can find it. But I kind of have gone back and forth and back and forth. So I've changed my mind. Date of birth is fine. Go ahead and list that in there because that will help the hospital. Your health insurance information, that's important to put in there as well. Your letter of instruction, or if you have a DNR or a power of attorney, any of those healthcare legal documents, either the original, if it has to be an original, such as a DNR, in a lot of places they have to be an original, they have to be on a certain color paper sometimes. So look for your state and your area, what the requirements are, but make sure to include those so that way your wishes can be followed if something were to happen to you. Also list if you're an organ donor. That way they know what your preferences are as far as that goes. Make sure to include emergency contacts, both a local contact and family contact if they're not local. And then I like to include things like general allergies. So even if it's not life-threatening, something like I happen to be allergic to a medication type called sulfas. That would be good for them to know. It's not going to save my life, but it's going to make me less miserable because I don't want to break out in hives. So general allergies is really good. Include all of your prescriptions, any medications that you take regularly, vitamins and supplements, things like that. Also, any vaccinations that you've had and when, and any other special notes that might be unique to you. Now, things like the emergency medical folder worksheets and the Spark Life binder, it includes so much because there are so many different situations that people have, and we want to cover all of the most common ones, right? Including ones that might not be quite as common but happen rather frequently. But there are always times where somebody might have something that's a little bit out of the norm. So there's always notes pages to include any other information that might not be listed on these fill in the blank worksheets. So if there's something specific to you that's not addressed in here, use that notes page and list it in that section. That way you have absolutely everything and it's very customized to you as well. All right, and then a lot of times, and I will talk about some of my tips and tricks for setting up your binder and some of these additional things I add in later, but I usually have some of these pocket folders, and in these pocket folders, you could add some additional items that would be useful in evacuations or for additional backup information. On Thursday, I'll talk more about using those pockets and things to add in, but those would go into your folder as well. All right. Okay, so I will recap that again in just a little bit. I love it. We have, so BT says, I've not used the official folder. However, I take a list of medicines to the doctor with me. I leave them a printed copy instead of taking the actual medicines. Yes, it's so much easier, right? And when I give you some tips and tricks on Thursday, I'll show you how to make bringing prescription information and sharing prescription information ridiculously easy. So you don't have to update lists and try to manage all of that. But that's fantastic. You can bring the whole folder or you could just bring the medication information, whatever works for you. Love it. Hey, Rosella, good to see that you're here. Oh, and CJ says personal folders are on order. Yay! Woo, woo, woo. And Joanne, it's so funny. She has a bunch of different random symbols. And then she says, sorry, my folder fell on my keyboard. I love that you got your folder with you, though. That's fantastic. You're doing it right. You gave me a laugh. Thanks. Okay. So we talked about quickly about what you should include in your folder, right? So let's talk about next. We're going to talk about what not to include in your folder. And just a reminder, these emergency medical folders, I have heard so many stories about how they've helped people out and literally saved lives sometimes by just simply having an emergency medical folder ready. For example, I had one woman who she'd ordered the Spark Life binder, and with the Spark Life binder, she'd not gotten around to filling out any of the rest of the binder yet, but she had filled out her emergency medical folder, which is what I always tell you to do first. When you get the Spark Life binder, do the emergency medical folder first because it's the most essential. Well, when She had this filled out. She'd not had the Spark Life Binder too terribly long, but then her husband, I believe he had a heart attack. And, she called the paramedics and she was very flustered and worried. And thankfully, she grabbed the emergency medical folder as they were putting him on into the ambulance. Well, she had completely forgotten in her, flustered state and her worry for her husband. She'd completely forgotten that her husband had a life-threatening allergy to a specific medication. And it was a medication that the paramedics were going to give to him. He'd been in the shower or something like that, so he's not wearing his medical alert bracelet or necklace. So they did not know that he had this allergy. They were going to give that to him. But the fact that she grabbed this and she handed it to the paramedics, when she handed it to the paramedics, even though she'd forgotten about his allergy, the paramedics were able to flip open to his section. And since that life-threatening allergies is the first page, medical alert, life-threatening allergies and conditions, they saw his allergy and they did not give that medication to him, which thank goodness, because it would have killed him. So thankfully, he ended up being okay. And she was forever thankful for having her emergency medical folder because she had completely forgotten to even tell them about that. So these emergency medical folders, having a printed version that you can hand to somebody or that a first responder can find if you can't communicate, are so helpful. Now, if you know anybody, like I mentioned, who could use putting together an emergency medical folder, could use this challenge, the challenge ends on Sunday. So share this challenge or this video or both with them before Sunday. All right. And if you've not registered, make sure to do so as well. You can register through Sunday. There's a link in the video description, or you can always go to SusannaK.com. And really quickly, I'll just show you how to share. I know a lot of times people aren't quite sure how you can share. So if you want to share the video, let me take the banner down. There we go. If you want to share the video itself, then if you're in YouTube, underneath the video, you should see a little button that says share. When you click that, it'll pop up and there will be, it's called a URL. That's a website address. So you'll just click that blue copy button next to that website address, and then you can email it, you can post it in social media, you can text message it, however you want to communicate. Just copy that link and send it to somebody, and you will be able to share the video itself. Now, if you're on a phone, it looks a little bit different. Under the video, the share button's kind of bigger, and instead of having the link showing, it's going to just have a copy link and comes up. So you'll have to click on copy link, and that's how you'll get that link. All right. Now, if you want to share the full challenge, then head over to SusannaK.com, go to the website, and at the very top, there's a pink bar. When you click on that, it will take you to the registration page. And on the registration page, when you're in your website browser, so Internet Explorer, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, whatever you use, at the top, you will see there's a website address. That's what you're going to copy and send by email, text, post in social media, whatever you want. But that way they can register for the challenge. All right. So those are the best ways to share the challenge or share the videos with people. And remember, we do have the challenge schedule page. That challenge schedule page has everything that you need throughout the challenge. So if you forget how to join one of the lives or what the links are, what the task is for the day, that challenge schedule page will have absolutely everything you need. Okay, so that was just a quick review before we head on to the rest. So let's talk about what not to include in your folder in order to make sure to keep it safe. Because like I mentioned, later this week, we'll talk about where to keep this so that you can quickly grab it and first responders can find it. But the fact that we need to leave it somewhere so easy to see and to find means that we don't want super personal information to be inside this folder, right? Because this needs to be visible. So instead of listing any of the super private information, anything that you're not comfortable listing here, in your emergency medical folder, list a contact person who any type of medical professional or emergency responder can contact to find out additional information. So it's probably not so helpful for ambulance. For the ambulance, they don't usually have time to make phone calls, but Doctors, hospitals, they can often contact that contact person to get the additional information if it's necessary. That way you don't have to list it in the folder. But try to keep all the stuff that we mentioned before, anything that's listed on these templates, try to keep that within the folder so that way medical professionals have what they need quickly to help you. Okay, so here are some things to make sure not to include in your folder. So don't include things like your social security number. Don't include any financial details like bank account numbers or copies of any type of credit cards or bank cards. No account numbers. And don't include any copies or numbers from IDs. So you don't want a copy of your driver's license or anything like that in here. Also, don't include any login information within your folder. All right. Imagine this is something where, worst case scenario, somebody broke in your house and did manage to grab this. Most likely they wouldn't, but it's a possibility if they did manage to grab this. We don't want them to have any of that information. Overall, though, go with your gut, go with your logic and your comfort level. So, whatever you logically feel is safe and that you're comfortable with, that's what you put in there. If you're not comfortable, then make sure to have that contact person who has that information and list that as where it's available, okay? So that is what not to include in your folder just to make sure that it stays safe. Okay, now finally, so you got these free worksheets. How did these make these so much easier? Well, these are here to help you take your brain out of the system. A lot of times when we're trying to create systems like a life binder, I don't know if you've ever tried or thought about doing it, but putting together all the most important data and information for your loved ones and for you to quickly grab, our brains can shut down, right? And there's so much to think about, so much detail. You're afraid you might forget something and not include it. You don't know how to get it organized. Well, by having a system that you can simply follow, that takes your brain out of the system. So your brain no longer has that excuse of, well, I'm not sure what to do, right? So you don't have to think about what needs to be included within your emergency medical folder or your life binder, if we're talking about that. Also, makes it so much faster, right? You're not A, thinking about all of it, but B, you're not trying to format it in a different way, even if this might not be set up in the style that you like. Having something is better than nothing, right? So at least starting by filling this out and getting it down on paper makes it so much faster than if you were to try to create it on your own from scratch and make it quote unquote perfect for you. So using a system that's already built is simply so much faster and you're more likely to get it done and in less time. Plus, it's a fillable PDF. So if you don't know what that is, basically, when you download the file, you can open the PDF and you can type into it on the different lines. You can type the check boxes, you can type your information onto the lines, and you can save it onto your computer, your hard drive, wherever you want to save it. And you can print it out. And when you do, whatever you typed will also show. And you can go back and you can make edits and print it out with the new edits. So the fillable PDF means that you can type into it, save it, change it, print it, whatever you need to do. So that makes it super easy to update if it gets really messed up or outdated. Having that fillable PDF simply makes it so much easier for the future, right? So using the worksheets, even if it's, there might be one or two lines in here that aren't applicable to you. You might not like the color red. You might want it formatted differently in a different font. Why don't you just make it easy for yourself and get it done first with the templates? Make it fast, make it simple, and then if you have time later, you can go and create your own format based on the templates if you want to, right? But at least you will have something done in the meantime, because whenever we think that we'll do it on our own, our brains get in the way. We think about how long it's going to take. We start to overthink, second guess. And if there's already a system there to do it, then that will get it done so much faster. And done is better than still in your head and thoughts, right? So that's the whole goal here, is to get this done. Now, you don't have to make a huge procedure of filling it in either. I'll talk more about it tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to give you some tricks to make sure to get it filled in super fast without taking a lot of time. But I'll give you a teaser. You're going to break it down into small steps. Even if you just fill in one blank or one page a day, and it will be done so fast. You can do it 5 minutes a day and you will be done very quickly. Tell you more about that tomorrow, but don't think about it as a huge project. All right. Okay. So, really quickly in the comments, I wanted to say hi. Donna says it would have been helpful when I was Jane Doe. Oh, no. Yes, it would have been helpful. If they don't know your information and who you are or anything about you, then it makes it very hard to treat you. So, I'm so glad everything worked out all right. Yes. Denise says, I put together a quick but not complete folder like this in 2016. I had kidney cancer. Oh, I'm glad you're doing better. But I'm thrilled that you had something like that. It makes a huge difference. Denise says, this is so much better than the one that she had put together. Oh, yay. This has taken, I think, 13 years now, over 12 years for me to put together, refine, because I did it along with the Spark Life Binder. And I've been refining this for over 12 years and using it with probably over thousands of people in different situations in life. So I keep refining it, making sure that everything is new and up to date. COVID information is in there now because the world keeps changing. So I'm on it. Oh, thanks. Hezron says, thank you much, love. You're so welcome. BT says, how do you ensure the folder stays with you at the hospital and not get lost? You really can't ensure that. When you're in the hospital, you're in the hands of the doctors, but I've not heard of anybody having the doctors lose it yet. A lot of times they will simply use it to pull all the information that they need out of it to put into your charts and your forms and everything. And then they will put it with usually your personal, possessions. So they might put it in one of those, personal possessions bags that you get with all of your clothes and everything. And usually they just stick it there once they've pulled out the information that they need. So you can't guarantee that it will. That's why we don't put social security numbers or ID copies or bank account numbers in there, just in case it did get separated from you. But yeah, usually I've not heard of anybody where the hospital or doctors or anybody has lost it yet. I've never heard that story yet. So it's probably a rare thing. But if you have the PDF and you filled it in on the PDF, then it's as simple as reprinting it when you get home also. So hopefully that helps. Mary says, I downloaded the pages. Now do I save as a document? So once you download it, you're just going to make sure it's saved on your computer. And I'll talk more about this. I think it's tomorrow. Let me share with you really quickly. So I have to hide all of these things so you can actually see. Makes it hard. Here we go. Okay. So we already talked yesterday about gathering supplies, what the week's going to look like. Today we talked about, you download your worksheets and what to include in your folder. Tomorrow we'll talk about filling it in. And I will share tomorrow, I will also share a how-to video separate from the live, but I will have the link within the live as well of how to download it, how to save it, how to fill it in, fill in the blanks. I'll try to actually share that with you today. Since you're asking now, I'll try to share it with you early. I'll put it on the challenge schedule page and I will include it in the Facebook group. So that's this week's schedule. Tomorrow we're talking about filling it in with just minutes a day. I will share the technical how-to with you for downloading and using it. Thursday we'll talk about putting it together and tricks to make it awesome. Friday we'll talk about keeping it safe. Saturday is our work session. So if you've not registered yet for the free group hike work session, that's where we've got a 2-hour time frame. You don't have to be there the whole time. You can arrive late or leave early, pop in as you can. But that's where we will put on some music, work side by side. I will answer questions during the breaks, and I'm right there if you have any questions. So if you're not done filling it in yet, that's the perfect time to do it. And then Sunday, we have a live Q&A session. So if you have any final questions about this, if you have questions about the Spark Life Binder and want to know how that works for all of your papers, then Sunday is going to be a really good day for that as well. All right, so Mary says, thanks so much. You're absolutely welcome. Definitely. So remember that the challenge schedule page has everything that you could possibly need throughout the entire challenge, the Emergency Medical Folder Challenge, which ends on Sunday. And let's see. Tell me in the comments before I do the recap and finish off, what else would you include in your emergency medical folder? What types of things would you use to grab and go if you had an emergency or to take to the doctor? Is there anything that you can think of that I might have missed? I'm always learning from you guys as well and trying to improve. Now, tomorrow, like I mentioned, we're talking about the easy way to fill it in, and I'll share how to use a fillable PDF and print additional pages for additional family members. Right? So let's do a quick recap. All right. So we talked about what to include in your folder. Basically, if you have the template, if you're watching this during the challenge and you got this template because you registered, then you just fill in the blanks. And within these blanks, you have your general emergency information. So that's local emergency and non-emergency contacts. You have your home information. So alarm code information and details, locations of circuit breakers, water shutoff valves, anything that would keep your home safe. Information if you rent, landlord contact information about your pets. So microchip IDs or where they're registered, vaccination records in case you have to evacuate quickly or put them into a kennel for some reason, not your normal kennel. How many pets are in your home and where they might hide if they're scared, and who would be the caregiver for your pets if you're not available. And then you want to make sure to have medical information for each person, right? So you're going to print one copy of the packet per person for all that medical stuff. So life-threatening allergies, conditions, and special needs, that's really important. You can handwrite the date of birth. I will be adding the date of birth as a field, I think, in a future update. Right now, I don't have it because I just recently decided, you know what, I'm going to go for it and put the date of birth in there after all. But that's up to you whether you want to add the date of birth or not. It's often helpful. Insurance information, letters of instruction or DNRs, power of attorneys, any of those healthcare specific types of documents. If you're an organ donor, emergency contacts, both local and family, and include your general allergies, your prescriptions, medications, supplements, vitamins, vaccinations, and any notes that are special to you. You can also throw additional stuff in the pockets, which on Thursday I will share some of the tips and tricks on what types of extra things can be really useful in your folder to make it easier and to make sure that you're super safe and protected. All right, so check the challenge schedule page if you've not already. That's where you can register for the group hike, that public work session with me on Saturday. You can also register for the important papers workshop next week. We have 2 sessions available. It's a free webinar. It will teach you how to, if you wanted to, build your own from scratch important papers binder. If you don't want to buy the Spark Life binder and save the time if you want to create it yourself, not a problem. The important papers workshop is where I tell you exactly how to do that. Also, if you do want the Spark Life binder, it is available until the 19th in the store. SusannaK.com. When you click on the store, then within the store, only through the 19th can you grab the Spark Life binder, either the digital, print, or both. All right. And then after that, it's not going to be available again until the end of the year. And remember, share this with anybody that you think could really use having one of these folders for you. Okay, CJ said that some of the information that she would include in the emergency medical folder would be medical equipment used routinely. For example, a CPAP unit, catheters, etc. That's great. That's really good. I know that we have that in the Spark Life Binder medical section, which has all of the non-emergency medical information about people and your medical history. All of that's in the medical section there. But yes, if you do have somebody with special needs who would need to have their CPAP, would need to have any type of catheter, feeding tubes, anything like that, that's very unique, definitely use that special notes section and include that because it's important for first responders and hospital staff to know what types of assisted devices you have. So I love that, CJ. Thank you so much. Donna says, keep one extra copy in the car. And you absolutely can. Yes, a lot of people have one for home and then one for the car, which is super easy when it's a fillable PDF and you can type into it because then you can just print out 2 copies, right? But I absolutely love that. Yeah, Mary says that she included that she uses a CPAP also. Yay, love that. Connie says, what about medical history and how far back would you go? In the emergency medical folder, I would only include any medical history that would be pertinent today. So if there were emergency, do they need to know if you had open heart surgery before? Probably. List that in the other notes when your open heart surgery was, or if you have a pacemaker or things like that. Would they need to know that you had tonsillitis when you were 16? Probably not. That's something that you would put in your Spark Life binder, in the medical history area of the Spark Life binder instead, because you would not take this whole binder to the doctor, but it would be something that you would possibly need to reference at some point. So as far as medical history goes, the Spark Life binder, which is where you keep all the rest of your most important information, that's where I would list anything that's not pertinent to your care today. It's not, it would not affect things as far as you can foresee today. If it's something that they would need to know in order to provide you the best care possible, then that's what I would list. And I would list everything. It does not matter how far back it was. If it's still pertinent today, I would list it in that other information note section. All right. Good question. Laurel says, hi all. Susanna, you mentioned including a flash drive. I'm not too techie. How do I use that and what's on it? The emergency medical folder info? Yes, I'll go more into it on Thursday, but basically, yes. So one of those little USB drives or flash drives, if you put the file that you download, that PDF, save it to a flash drive, and when you fill it in and type into it, then that flash drive can be kept in one of the pockets in your emergency medical folder if you'd like, just in one of those little zipper pockets or Velcro pockets. And that way, whenever you need to update it, then you can just grab that flash drive from your folder, put it in your computer, do your updates, print it out, and put the USB drive right back in. You won't have to worry about where you saved the original file. Also, you could, if you had old lab results that are still pertinent that they might need, medical history paperwork, you could keep scans of that on the USB drive just in case they needed it. I would not put things that they would need immediately without also having a printed backup copy in the folder. I would make sure that, there's a paper copy of everything that would be urgent, but anything that you would want to keep with you that might not be so urgent, but you might want access to for your medical information, that could go on the USB drive. So yes. Eileen says, I carry a page in my wallet of all major illnesses and surgeries along with my current meds. The major illnesses and surgeries might be helpful if added. Fantastic. Yes. So if you have any of that that's still pertinent, I would definitely include that. Sure. I love it. Susan says, I think the date of birth would be helpful since most clinics use your birth date as a cross-reference. Yeah, and that's actually why I decided to add it back in. So I added that one back in just because I felt that it's more useful than it is a risk. So I absolutely agree, Susan. I love that. BT says, will you speak about where to store the binder if someone lives alone? How do I alert first responders where to find it? Yes, I will. And let's see, that is on Friday. On Friday, during our live, I will go in depth into how to store it, where to store it in your home, how to make sure that first responders can find it, and your family members and caregivers and all of that. So yeah, check out on Friday because it's a good one. Lori says, include supplements and over-the-counter meds you take regularly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, Donna says unusual organ info like solitary kidney. Yeah, that would be important for them to know. For sure. I would put that in the notes section, definitely. CJ says, please highlight cardiac medications and blood thinners. Yeah, feel free, go through and grab a highlighter. If there's anything really important, then feel free to highlight it as well. And you'll see that on that the medical alert page, the first page for each person, it not only has life-threatening allergies, it also has life-threatening conditions and special needs, and it has an area for other notes. And that's where I would probably put if you're on blood thinners or cardiac meds, so that way they know, because it can be very dangerous if you're on a blood thinner or something and they don't know that. So thank you. Yes. Yeah, you could put EKG if that's still relevant. Absolutely. Connie says, what about blood type? Yes, I actually have blood type listed in the templates. So you can write down your blood type. Usually they will still type your blood before giving you any blood, but it does help them to kind of have an idea of, what they will probably need. Um, so that can be helpful as well. You guys are also smart. I love it. You're amazing. All right. Well, that is it for today. You did absolutely amazing. You're just rocking this. You're going to do so great. So keep using those templates. Take one bite at a time. This is not a race. You don't have to worry and stress out about making sure that everything is filled in immediately. Just go through one bit at a time. Tomorrow, we're talking about how to make this as easy as possible to fill in. So that way you won't be sitting here 6 months from now going, oh, yeah, I put it together but didn't complete it. I want this completed for you. So tomorrow we'll talk about that. Lori says, would you include medications you recently took for short term and may need to restart at a later date? I would if it would be something that would be relevant. So something for me, for example, because I'm allergic to sulfas, there are some medications that they will give me if I have something like a sinus infection, because normally that would be a sulfa they'd have to give me. So there are some medications where if I did get a sinus infection again, some of them worked, some of them did not work, and I would list that information just so that if I had another sinus infection, then they can say, okay, we can't give you sulfas. Do you know if such and such works for you? And I would have an answer. I'd be like, yes, these medications actually are helpful. These medications are not, even those are for a short time. So if it's something like that where it's likely you might need the information in the future, then absolutely you can include it. If it's something that you took and you probably won't need to be on it again, or it's so general that they would already know what to give you, that it works fine and all that, then I would not include that. You're so welcome, Kathy. Laurel says, when I went in the ambulance last January, the EMT mentioned a spot for a birth date would be good. I just wrote it on the front page for now. Yes, absolutely. And I remember seeing your comment, and I finally decided you were the straw that broke the stubborn camel's back. And I realized I think it will be more helpful than a risk. So you're the reason why I kind of changed my mind. And the next update will have that on there. But yes, for now, just write it on the front page near the name, and that should be good. BT says, this has really put a fire under me to finish my emergency folder and the Spark Life Finder. All of this is absolutely pertinent information. Thanks so much. Oh, you're so welcome. I love it. I love all of you. All right, well, go be amazing today. And if you're up for a challenge, I challenge you to fill in 3 blanks in your emergency medical folder worksheets today. Just 3. See if you can get through 3 and tell me if you did it tomorrow, okay? You're so welcome, Terry, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye now. And I love you.